you're born into games in society. Like you're born as an American, you're born into capitalism, you're born into all these norms, and then we learn them and they become invisible. So we don't realize we're actually in games we didn't choose to play. We're just playing it. And then we try to become number one if you're competitive in one of those different tracks. And so what I've tried to suggest to him is don't assume that any game being played in society is your game. Extract yourself, evaluate them for what they are. And so the first, I guess I would summarize that and say, don't try to be number one, try to be zero. And number one is you're going for rank. In a given game, I'm trying to be other players. A zero is, this is like a different concept, zero principle thinking. You're trying to come up with a new idea, a new game to play. And I guess the advice would be try not to feel overpowered by societal expectations of what they want you to play.
And so with that, in frame, if you were in front of somebody who was unhappy in some way, shape, or form in their life, or maybe even happy but really striving, how do you break the frame? Do they first have to sit and even go, okay, here's one game I'm playing, which is I'm in finance. Why are you in finance? Here's one game I'm playing. I'm dating somebody. Do you want to be dating somebody? What does dating mean? Like, how do you put that into practice?
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the most basic thing. We all have thoughts. I learned this when I was depressed, that I would have thoughts that would say, Bryan, life is not worth living. And you might want to kill yourself. In fact, you really do want to kill yourself. In fact, that's the only thing that gives you pleasure is the ideation of killing yourself. So in that moment, when I learned that I am not my thoughts, that my brain was generating these observations and suggestions and even statements, that I could observe them and say, thank you, brain, for making that observation. I know that you're not me, so I'm not going to act on that, or am I going to acknowledge that as truth? And so you are not your thoughts. And so in any situation, because your brain is creating your reality, and if you just accept them when they land, then you're going to play the game your brain tells you, but your brain is not trustworthy. Absolutely not trustworthy. And so I know with my thoughts, in any given situation, I will disregard the first 5 or 6 thoughts I have on anything, because I know my brain's like just trying to situate itself. And even then, it's going to have critical errors of biases and all kinds of assumptions. And so that's the very first game. And so if you're walking into dating or career selection or something, if you can't catch the first layer, which is your mind is creating this false reality for you, then you'll be stuck downstream from that.
What about the hippie dippies in Austin where I'm located who say, but just listen to your gut. Your first reaction is right.
Yeah.
How do you push back on that, or do you?
It's a bit of a too simplistic of a rule to universalize. That is not to say that intuitions are not valuable. Like your body's legit doing computation, doing pattern matching, and you're probably able to generate wisdom that your conscious mind can't. And so it's not that it's not good, it's just that it's a data point among a larger set of data points. And some people I think will encourage that go with your first decision and then don't look back. Others will say be more mindful. It's probably individual, but there's not a clean answer because people are trying to simplify the complexity of life. And they're trying to say, here's a rule. And so for me, the rule is don't trust your brain. And then of course, if someone says, okay, how do I not trust my brain? That just made things worse for me. That was really problematic, but it invites you to start a new game. So for example, if you learned that we each have 188 proven cognitive bias, they're shortcuts our mind makes to try to make sense of a really messy reality. And so your brain is always making these shortcuts to help you make sense, but then the trade-off is like it may not be as accurate. It's like confirmation bias. If I'm trying to find something what I really believe about a new concept, I'm going to find information. If it confirms what I want to believe, yep, I accept it. And if I find information that challenges my belief systems, I'm going to reject it. And so just being aware of that, and to me, that's been the single most valuable practice I've ever maintained, is knowing that I cannot trust my own mind. And then because once you start from there, then you can't trust others. You can't trust institutions. So who can you trust? And that starts the game of like how to build the life you want to build, because otherwise you're going to probably be disappointed in the process of trusting other forms of authority.
Generally, people who feel like they give a about way too many things, it's not an issue about the caring, it's the extent of how much they care. It's not about not giving what other people think. It's about finding something that is more important than what other people think. If you don't have anything more important going on in your life, then what other people think about you is going to dictate everything else.
Mark Manson, the best-selling author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***, is here today to break down how to stop faking confidence and start earning it. You'll learn the psychology behind real self-belief, why trying to feel good all the time is actually what's holding you back. If you've ever second-guessed yourself or talked yourself out of taking a shot, this episode is your playbook for unstoppable confidence built from action, not affirmation.
The more you try to feel confident all the time, the more aware you become of all of the different areas that you're actually not confident. It's when you stop trying to be confident all the time that you actually feel comfortable in your pursuits, knowing that it might not work out, which is confidence.
If confidence is really just the comfort with failure, then how do you get more comfortable with failure?
I will say this, I would say probably...
I hate this answer. If you want to change your life right now, these are the habits that you need to start adopting. What are they?
I think it's...
I want to start with some of my favorite tweets of yours.
Okay.
I just went down a deep rabbit hole on...
Sure.
I haven't been in your tweets in a minute. I guess it's
Come on,
called
Cody.
X's. X's. I don't
Come
even know
on.
what we're doing. I know. And so there were a bunch. You had one that you pinned that's like a new favorite of mine, which is you said, paradoxically, the less you try to convince people to like you, the more likable you become. Is that true? And why?
I think when people try to make you like them, when they try to control your reaction to them, it is like inherently off-putting. I think we generally respect people who respect our agency, right? So if I come in here and I just start saying all the things you want to hear and trying to impress you and like be like all what I think you want to see, it actually puts a lot of pressure on you to make me feel happy and okay. And paradoxically, that makes you feel bad. So,
And do we not even realize that? Like, do you think people don't even realize the things they're doing to turn off other people?
I think so. If you think about it, it's like a very childish kind of tactic. Like I think when we're young, it's intuitive. It just feels intuitive of like, oh, I want people to like me. So let me just like agree with what everybody says. At some point that stops working and you kind of realize you're like, oh, I'd rather be disliked for who I am than liked for something I'm not. Right? Because you start feeling like even if you do get somebody to like you, it feels icky, and it doesn't feel like you're being appreciated for who you authentically are. So, and I think this takes place in a lot of. I mean, obviously this is like a social phenomenon, but people do this in dating. People do it with coworkers. They do it in business. It's like all the ass kissing, the yes men. Like it backfires eventually.
It's interesting because we've had many a walk on Venice Beach Boulevard or whatever that is, the boardwalk.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons, I like talking to you so much is you have this weird experience, which is that you've been on the internet for how many years now?
I published my first blog post in 2007.
In 2007.
Yeah.
And you've obsessed kind of this entire time in varying ways, it seems to me at least, about human psychology. And once through the lens of like men and dating, and you saw one whole era, which was like the how do I get girls to like me era, right? And then you went through an era of like, I don't care if anybody fucking likes me, fuck all of you guys. And also, how do I become confident with that and whatever? And so I've really appreciated your advice. So I'm excited that you're here because, man, we've both met a lot of people on the internet.
Yeah.
Some of the advice is like, sounds really good, that it's terrible advice.
Oh, yeah.
And you have like a very strong moral compass.
Yes.
An ethical and moral lens, which you're like, no, I will not give that advice anymore because it's not real.
Yeah.
Or, oh, hey, I did mess up on that. Sorry about that, which is also really rare on the internet. So I want to go through like a bunch of questions that I think about and then a bunch of questions from people who are listening. And I want you to take it through like a couple different eras.
Okay.
Like even the era of like, now we're almost back again to how do I get women to like me? Because
it's been weird, honestly.
Right?
Like it's funny because I self-published a men's dating book back in 2011. And I just thought that era of my life was closed. And it's funny because like Gen Z men are showing back up and that book's starting to sell really well again.
No way.
So it's
Wait,
like,
what was that one called?
It's called Models Attract Women Through Honesty. And I wrote it, I really wrote it to kind of be the antidote to all the pickup artist stuff back in the day. Like, dude, you don't need to wear a fuzzy hat and like do magic tricks in a bar. Like you can just be a good human being. Yeah. And it's interesting because it's kind of catching a second life with the next generation.
Yeah, because they're having less sex. They're
It's a
less
mess.
relation.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
dating's
mess.
a mess right now. Yeah.
Yeah, what is out there in dating right now? What are you hearing from your millions of followers on all different platforms?
From what I can tell, so I have a couple theories, but like I would say the primary one is I personally think that the apps are negative ROI for people's dating outcomes.
Well,
And it's primarily because they're optimizing for the wrong things. If you think about it, like I don't know how long you've been with your husband, but like if you think back to when you were single, you probably had the experience of you would often meet somebody and it wouldn't immediately occur to you, like you wouldn't immediately be attracted to them. Like maybe you would talk to them for a little bit, get to know them, and then they kind of like they'd win you over. Like you'd have to like kind of warm up to them a little bit. And the reason that happens is just that like we're poor judges of who's going to make us happy in a relationship. Like we often don't understand the traits in a person that is compatible with us. And so when you get on an app, the app asks you for all these superficial traits that you want. It's like, oh, I want somebody who's, 6'5" in finance and like all this stuff. And it's like, it's all the resume shit that doesn't actually generate any sort of chemistry or connection with somebody. Whereas all the things that actually do matter, the personality traits and the background and the personal values and how the person experiences intimacy, the sense of humor, like all those things, they're hidden. So you can't match for those things. You have to meet the person first to understand if you actually have those things, if you're compatible with the person in that way. So I just think the dating apps have sorted for the wrong thing. And it's a classic case of people also not, because people don't know what they want, the dating apps are supplying a demand that is actually not solving the people's problems.
Oh, man. So, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, everything you're talking about is about this. Like people want to find love because they're chasing happiness. People want to find relationships because they don't want to be alone. Like it's all sort of about what do we want as a human? It's like part of this human experience. And I'm wondering, like, I don't know. I think I read somewhere that you had written between books and blog posts. It was something wild. You're like 17,542 blog posts. I don't remember the number, but it's a lot. And one of the lines you said is that real success isn't actually about making money or being happy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
Both money and happiness they're like oxygen. When you don't have any, they solve everything. But when you have some, it solves nothing, right? So yeah, if you're broke, go get some money. Like that's definitely going to solve your problems. And if you're really miserable or depressed, then like, yeah, obviously get some happiness. But if you're already kind of at a steady baseline, like you're in a stable position, chasing more, it's inefficient in a lot of ways. Like it's not actually going to satisfy you in any meaningful way. I personally think that like on the long term, like if you look at if you zoom out and look at your entire lifespan from beginning to end, the best way to define success is simply to feel as though you spent your time well. It's the old deathbed question, right? It's like when you're 80 and laying on your deathbed, are you going to look back and say like, I'm glad I did that? Or are you going to say like, wow, I wish I didn't do so much of that? And to me, that boils down to meaning and purpose. Right? If you have meaning and purpose, if you are finding something meaningful and purposeful in your life to pursue and to chase after, whether that's building something or, starting a family or giving yourself to a cause, generally speaking, like that's the sort of stuff that decades later we look back on and we're like, I'm really glad I spent time doing that.
And do you think this is like a global phenomenon? Like you went and spent time in the happiest country in the world, right? What did you find? Like, what do the happiest people in the world have? Or was it something totally else you found there?
Well, the funny thing, so the technically the happiest country in the world is Finland. And if you talk to the Finnish, they're like, what? Really? And the conclusion I came to is that I think Finnish culture has they have this ethos of kind of low expectations, which is very opposite of how Americans are. But there's this sense of just being satisfied very easily. Like it's kind of a good thing to be satisfied. And I think that there's some wisdom in that, right? Like this isn't to say that you shouldn't chase things or you shouldn't have goals or dreams or whatever, but it's also like have those goals and dreams, but also while understanding that they're not going to solve anything. Like it's a fun game you're playing. Chase after that 10-year goal. Hopefully you achieve it. That's great. But just understand that like once you get on the other side of achieving it, you're still going to be the same stressed, anxious person who has problems and gets in fights with his mother. And it's all you're going to be the same person with the same shit going on. So you need to like ultimately find something that's worth the struggle. That feels like it makes the struggle worth it.
When you're talking to, like, I think predominantly a lot of young men on the internet, and I love your YouTube videos, by the way.
Thank
but
you.
yeah, but you have quite a few where you talk about the habits that lead to like successful or happy lives. I know there's no hacks to any of this. And at the end of our 3-step process,
Sure.
their life will probably be totally fixed.
Yeah.
But if you had to give somebody, man, if you want to change your life right now, if you want to be more successful in life, these are the habits that you need to start adopting. What are they?
If I had a 16-year-old in front of me and my job was to optimize them to have the most healthy and successful life possible, I would actually start with social skills. Because it's on the psychological side, like pretty much all of the research around happiness essentially boils down to the quality of your relationships. Do you have people in your life? A, and then do you have trusting, intimate relationships with those people? Like, do you have people in your life that you feel like have your back, that you can trust, that you can go to with a problem, who aren't going to judge you for making a mistake? And on the psychological side, that's like the 80-20. And then on the professional side, as you know, like relationships are also everything. Like it's nobody ever did anything great by themselves. Like there's no incredible successful business story that they did it alone. It's like you either built an amazing team or you had an amazing team of people backing you and helping you and supporting you.
Yeah, I was reading a study the other day about how there's something like a 20 to 30% increase in salary just from thinking about increasing your EQ and really ignoring IQ, that IQ almost has no correlation between monetary success.
Yeah.
Do you find also in personal relationships, like I think a lot of people these days, some of our top videos on YouTube lately, I was talking to the team about them. They're all about confidence. And I thought that was really interesting because I feel like confidence usually goes away when you or a lack of confidence goes away when you work a lot.
Yeah.
Like the more you work, the more confidence I have. I rarely am like, we're not going to be able to do it. I'm like, we probably haven't prepped. We haven't done sufficient things in order to have this outcome.
Right.
And so I'm not confident we're going to hit it.
Yeah.
But it does seem like we have like a confidence crisis.
Yeah.
Do you see that with a lot of people saying, I do not feel confident in myself. I'm not going to be able to do it. I don't believe in myself. I have imposter syndrome.
Yeah. I feel like people definitely feel more scrutinized and judged these days. And I think a lot of that is just how online and permanent everything is. You know, I think when you and I were young, if you kind of made a fool out of yourself, people would forget about it within a week or two. Now it lives forever on the internet and people can it's just everybody has a phone in their pocket. So it's anything dumb you do or say can potentially last forever. So I just think people have become much more risk averse and they haven't built that muscle of taking risk. But the other thing too is I think, I've always said that confidence isn't about believing you're going to achieve success. It's a comfort with failure. It's knowing that you're going to be okay if it doesn't turn out okay. Like that's actually what makes you confident in a situation. It's like, I'm going to take a stab at this. And if it doesn't go all right, that's fine. I'm going to learn from it. Right. And I just think a lot of people have that backwards. So they focus on like the guaranteeing of success. And so they become a perfectionist and they try to control everything, which then just makes them more anxious and more stressed out. And they get into kind of a downward spiral.
That's a good point. I was really struggling to like nail what confidence is exactly the other day. We were literally just talking about it and whether that's inherent or not. But if confidence is really just the comfort with failure, then how do you get more comfortable with failure? Again,
by failing.
I hate this answer. I hate this for me. I hate this for everybody listening. Is this the
sorry,
only?
everybody.
Is there not a 3-step framework? God damn it, Mark.
Sorry, but
really, like, okay, so let's get granular then. Like, big failures, little failures, any failures, daily failures.
All the above. And I will say this. I would say probably little failures first. I think it's because big failures, if you're not used to failing and if you're not used to failing publicly, like it can overwhelm you and kind of wipe you out. But yeah, definitely you want to get lots of little failures in, lots of little embarrassments, lots of, coming back to the dating coaching thing, one of the first things I used to tell people is I would say, like, how much have you gotten rejected lately? And, most people would say not at all because they didn't ask anybody out. And I'm like, well, that's your first problem. Like, go get rejected 5 times and then we can talk about what went wrong, And people just don't think about it in those terms. They just think about it in terms of, give me the thing to say that is going to guarantee that this person likes me. And the world doesn't work that way.
Dude, it really doesn't. And it's almost like that in everything.
It is.
Like, it's every answer is actually just, do you want to go get somebody to date you that you like? Go eat shit at least 100 times to find one.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if you want to get rich, go talk to 100 customers that tell you no to get one. And if you want to buy a business, go look at 100 deals to find one. Like, every answer is basically quantity and more.
Yeah.
And if you don't pile on more pain and failure, you're never going to have the thing that you want.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And what's kind of interesting about you too, like, you've done these experiments with people. So as opposed to a lot of people who talk about things online, you're like, all right, I have a theory.
Yeah.
And we're going to go test this theory live and see if the theory actually works and whether it breaks down. And you've done it, as far as I can see, with people who have lost weight, one way or another, people who were scared of failure.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you could talk about one of the times that you walked in a chicken costume down Venice Boulevard, which I remember, and why? Because you put yourself through the experiment first, right?
Yeah, yeah. One of the things I've always believed very strongly, like I've never wanted to be the guy on stage, like, telling this is what you should do. These are the 5 things that are going to change your life. I've always liked the idea of like, I'm in the trend, I'm in the shit and the muck with everybody else. I go through this stuff too. So in the videos, I do the same. I basically took fans with various anxieties or personal issues and kind of ran them through a gauntlet of different challenges or having them face their fears and whatnot. But I made myself do it too. And it was a good exercise, right? It's like, one is just, I should be able to walk the walk of what I say. But it's also, I think it comes back to, like, building that, you can call it scar tissue or you can call it the muscle, but it's basically, it's like that accumulation of failures, embarrassments, etc. And it's funny because doing that series of videos, by the time we got towards the end, like, I honestly reached a point where I'm like, I don't think there's anything at this point that could embarrass me or scare me. Careful
if you put it out there.
I know. It was funny, actually. So we just shot one a few weeks ago. And it was funny. I basically hosted a dinner for a bunch of people in my audience and worked on a bunch of stuff with them, and then took them outside, and we were on the beach in Malibu, and took them outside, and then had everybody walk on hot coals, and which is like a classic Tony Robbins thing. And it was really funny because the attendees, like, looked at me and they're like, oh, well, you do this all the time, right? And I'm like, no, I've never done this before.
You're like, it might work, you might die.
Yeah, and they were all looking at me, they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but we'll find out.
You okay?
Yeah, it was fun.
But I like that. I was supposed to go to Tony's show the other week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've never done it. It actually, that gives me anxiety. Like, we've got
the fire stuff, or being at a
like
Tony Robbins
hugging
seminar.
random people, jumping up and down, smiling. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm an opt out, and I say that with a lot of love to Tony, who's going to come on the pod, and he was like, "Come," and you know what his selling point was? Be in the front row. I was like, Tony, not a selling point.
No.
I want to be in the back. I'm unsure about this, But I couldn't end up doing it because I had some health stuff. But I do think that it would have probably been good for me because I hate that. I hate the idea of hugging strangers and jumping up and down. And
maybe It's funny, like a huge part of those seminars is that kind of like synthetic fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy. I think it's one of those things where it's like easy for you and me, because I have the same feeling. Like I look at it and I'm like, really? Like we're gonna dance again? Like what? Come on, man.
No public dancing.
Yeah, it's like no, I don't want to give another back rub. Like it's just
God, you have to do back rubs?
Yeah, I'm like I'm
Oh.
good, man. Like
Wow.
I don't. But it's funny because I think it's ultimately we're not the target market. Like it's
copy.
if you think about somebody who's extremely depressed, extremely lonely, like hasn't gotten out much, has kind of lost touch with most of the people in their lives, an experience like that can be very powerful. But yeah, if you do have like a bunch of good relationships in your life, you're pretty happy. Like it is kind of just it's synthetic fun.
Interesting. So you almost have had to stair step your way up the embarrassment ladder too.
Oh yeah.
You're like, now chicken costume is like, that's a Tuesday.
Oh yeah. I could put one on right now. It's like no problem. But it's like anything though, right? Like, I mean, it's you climb that ladder with money too, right? Like it's like the first time you have a 5-figure deal, you're sweating bullets. Now it's like you probably don't even get out of bed for a 5-figure deal. So it's like anything in life is like that. You get that progressive desensitization that happens over time.
Yeah, that's probably actually bad in a lot of ways, and why really rich people go crazy.
It can be.
They like can't find the new adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Because you have a line actually that I like, which is like, happiness comes from progress, therefore happiness requires struggle, which I think lends itself to this.
Yes.
Because what if you can't find something to struggle on anymore? What does that quote mean to you?
Well, it's paradoxical because the more successful you become, the harder it is to know what progress is or what progress is worth having. So, and this is why you see, so in my second book, I talk about this, that there's I believe it's called the Easterland paradox in psychology, which is essentially that you find that the poorer the country or the poorer the neighborhood, the lower the suicide rate. And the more affluent the country and the more affluent the neighborhood, the higher the suicide rate. And I think it comes from the fact that when you don't have anything in life, like when you're struggling on a day-to-day basis, meaning is very simple. It's like, get to tomorrow, get the rent paid, get some food on the table. Like there's no ambiguity of what you should be doing to be improving your life. If you're like kicking it in a Bel Air mansion, with like some crazy 9-figure exit or something, and you're 32 and you have nothing to do all day, like that is an existential crisis. Like nobody's going to shed a tear for you, but it's not obvious what progress is. It's not obvious what you should do next. In fact, the fact that you can do potentially an infinite number of things actually makes it even harder to figure out what progress looks like or what you should be doing next. And so you often see, so it's funny, like I don't know if it's a national network or if it's just like a California thing, but there's a network, it's called the Post-Exit Founders Group or network or whatever. And it's, and I've got some friends who are in it, and I've talked to them before and they're like, yeah, dude, it's like when we do our events and everybody gets behind closed doors, it's like half the people there are like in an existential crisis because they just had this massive check hit their bank account and they're not working anymore. And sure, you can like splurge on a boat and go to Greece or something, but like that gets old after a month or two. And then you're just sitting around being like, oh shit.
Yeah.
What next?
Especially if like entrepreneurship is a trauma response, which I think it is half the time. I'm like, what sane person would do this? That's not normal. And so if that's true, and so like half the reason you keep going is because you're kind of self-masochistic and you like the, struggle and figuring out what to do next.
Yeah.
If I only had the option of sipping Mai Tais all day and you got to look at yourself in the eye and nobody else, ooh, that could become problematic.
For sure. It's funny, like one of the most depressed I've ever been is after my first book blew up. And it was because basically everything I had been working towards the previous 10 years all happened and got accomplished at the same time. And so then I just kind of sat around being like, well, I guess I'll play some more video games because I don't know what else to do. And it was like a very bleak 6 months. It was very strange, which is weird because everybody's patting you on the back and saying, oh my God, you must be living your dream. And you're like, yeah, this is my dream, but I'm the same dude with the same problems and the same anxieties and the same bad habits. And except now I have nothing to look forward to. I have like no definition of progress in my life.
Buying a business or launching your own venture can feel impossible if you're stuck figuring out the website, logo, email marketing all at once. But here's the good news. GoDaddy Aero is here to help. So just a few prompts, it builds a professional website, a logo, an email, even social content, all tailored to your business. It's like having a whole launch team in your laptop. Instead of months of grinding, you can go from idea to launch-ready business in minutes. No more waiting, no more guessing, just a real online presence that you can grow with day one. Suddenly, the thing that was just a tiny idea in a notebook is online, polished, and ready to scale. So if you're ready to take your idea to life, head to GoDaddy.com/Codie Sanchez and try GoDaddy Aero today.
That book was so big, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Obviously, we talked about it in the beginning of this, in the intro, but it was so big. It is so big.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most sold nonfiction copies or
like
books of all time.
20-something million copies at this point.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Also an incredible documentary on Netflix. I remember when that came out.
Yeah,
great thumbnail too. Was that you? Weren't you in a floaty at a pool? With
they put me in a pool. There's this like crazy surreal opening sequence that involves me sitting in a pool drinking out of a pineapple while like people die and emergencies happen around me. It's like this very dramatic sequence. It was like 45 degrees in New Zealand when they shot that. So I was freezing my ass off the entire time. But I got to have my little Hollywood moment.
It did not look like that. It looked lovely and happy.
So cold. There was like there were a bunch of PAs with like mountains of towels on the side. So as soon as I got out of the pool, they just like draped all these towels over me. So I was so cold.
But what's cool about that book that I think is really resurfacing for people, boundaries are really big with the kids these days, not giving a fuck, having confidence. That book, again, is like, I feel like even having another resurgence moment. I'm sure there are many people out there right now thinking about what other people think more than those other people are ever actually thinking about them.
Oh, like all of us.
Right. Like you're talking about me. So the question is,
it's called being human.
The book's not that long, which I also love about it. But if you had to distill for somebody who hasn't read it yet, what do you do when you give too many fucks?
So the paradoxical thing, and this is laid out in chapter 1, is the whole idea of not giving a fuck. It's a bit of a misnomer. Like this idea that things are just going to roll off your back and nothing's going to faze you. There's a word for that in psychology. It's called a psychopath. So we don't want that. You do want to care about things. Obviously, you do want people in your life that you do care about their opinion, right? Like it should upset me if, I don't know, my parents are mad at me. So the question is, how much should we care? So generally people who feel like they give a fuck about way too many things or what way too many people think, it's not an issue about the caring, it's the extent of how much they care. So the point I make in the book is that it's not about not giving a fuck what other people think. It's about finding something that is more important than what other people think. Because if you don't have anything more important going on in your life than what other people think about you, then what other people think about you is going to dictate everything else. And that's just like a shitty place to be. It's nothing good's going to happen. But if you have, this comes back to the meaning and purpose thing. If you have something very meaningful, something you're giving yourself to, something you're willing to sacrifice for, something you care very, very deeply about, then suddenly it's okay if some people don't like you. It's okay if some people don't get it, if some people judge you or disapprove of you.
So what would you say to somebody that's like, I just want to stop being such a people pleaser?
Find the hills that you're willing to die on. Ask yourself, what are you willing to be disliked for? And for a people pleaser, that's going to be a very hard question to answer. They might not actually have anything that they can answer, and which at that point, your job becomes to find something. Find something you're willing to be disliked for, and then go do it. Because that's your thing. That's the piece of meaning and purpose that's going to be more important than other people's opinions. And as long as you're driving towards that, then everything else will kind of fall into place.
What is sort of the right way to respond when somebody else is like coming at you in a boundary way, or when somebody else is trying to make you work outside of something that you feel comfortable with? How do you keep boundaries, but not look like a dick?
I think tactically speaking, it's always great to frame things like rules. So, for instance, if I was like, let's say your producer emailed me and it was like, come in at whatever o'clock. And I was like, no, that's preposterous. I refuse. Like, then it creates this ugly situation, right? Whereas if I'm just like, hey man, I have this rule. I don't do interviews after 3 p.m. Sorry, maybe we can find another time. Like when you frame things as a rule, it's like, hey, this is just a rule I have in my life. I just don't do this thing. And it's just to take care of my own health and my own sanity or whatever. People respect it. And then if they don't, it makes it very easy to be like, oh, well, then fuck them. Like they're not respecting my rules, so this is just not going to work out. So I always encourage people to like frame whatever boundaries you want to have, frame it as a rule. It's like, hey, I don't, I don't talk about this subject with people who aren't part of my family. Nothing personal, And then it's like, then things become very clear.
It's so good because it's shifting the no to you to like, oh no, it's not about you. It's about this thing other here that already exists. It's like you get to use a shadow influence without even having one.
Yeah.
And then you get to deflect in a respectful way whatever somebody else is trying to push on you. That's so good.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is that it also clarifies for you the caliber of the relationship you have, right? Like if the person doesn't respect your rule, then by extension, they're not respecting you. So it makes it very clear of like, okay, I have somebody in my life who doesn't respect me. What am I going to do about that? Whereas if you're kind of in this people pleasing mode and you're like, well, I don't want to upset them. So I'm going to like hint and like maybe like be a little passive aggressive, drag my feet, pretend like I forgot. Then you just end up in this like murky gray area where it's like nobody's really happy with how the friendship's going or the relationship's going, but like you're kind of going through the motions and like it doesn't end well.
Do you think that we are like over labeling ourselves, such as like these days I was like watching something online. It's like, I'm an avoidant. I'm a this, I'm a, I'm with a passive aggressive person. He's definitely a narcissist. Like what is going on with all these labels we're placing on ourselves? Are these real? Are they that black or white?
Yeah, they are real. They're not necessarily black and white. And I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I think it's a sword that cuts both ways. So I do think there is a bit of an over labeling that has been happening. So I'll make the bull case first for all this labeling. And I guess we could call this just kind of like therapy culture in general, so it's like all of the language that permeates TikTok and Instagram and YouTube these days, and people talking, about being neurodivergent and avoidant and attachment types and dealing with narcissists and all this stuff. Like there's all this like kind of clinical therapy language that has entered into the mainstream. So on the one hand, it represents just an awareness of like a lot of these dynamics and issues, right? Which I don't think that's a bad thing. Like if you go back a couple generations, like people just buried shit for decades and it only come
like
out
adults,
after
shove it down.
Just keep shoving it down and,
don't deal with that.
And hope it doesn't come out after 9 or 10 drinks. So I do think it's good that these things are being talked about. The problem is that there's a very fine line between labeling a problem and adopting a label as an identity. So as soon as you adopt a label as an identity, like the way our minds work is whatever I've defined myself as part of my identity, I'm going to defend it and I'm going to become emotionally attached to it. So if I decide that, let's say I'm ADHD, which I am diagnosed as ADHD, But if I decide to make that a core part of my identity, like it defines who I am and my relationships and how I like see the world and interact with the world, then I'm going to start imposing that on all of my experiences and my relationships. And then you get this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, which is that because I'm approaching every experience in my life is like, well, as an ADHD person, I can't really handle this. And as an ADHD person, you need to talk to me this way and not that way. You actually amplify how serious the condition is. Whereas if you just said like, okay, this is a thing I have and I'm just going to manage it and I'm not going to make it part of my identity, you can use that awareness to diminish how much it affects your life. So the problem I see is that adopting these labels as an identity is being rewarded online. And so it's the more it's rewarded, the more people like cling to them, which the worse they feel for having them.
Great point. I've also been diagnosed as ADHD from an online test I did once. And
Very clinical.
Yes, it was super. But the best part about the test was at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe it when somebody sent it to me. But the end, there was a literal link to talk to psychologist. I guess it would have been a psychiatrist because they could prescribe and consider some sort of option, which I believe was some variant of Adderall that I hadn't heard of before. So like, you may need to get on a person with this one and some of your treatment options. So it was like kind of an ad.
Yeah.
And I thought, for the love of all that's holy, in a 15 question interview online, you're going to diagnose me as X thing and give me a pill? Seems flawed.
Yes.
You know?
There's a whole overdiagnosis issue. I mean, and that's just across the board. Anxiety disorders, depression, PTSD, like there's probably all of those are being overdiagnosed to a certain extent. I mean, the problem is just, without getting down too much of a tangent, there's always been kind of the pharmaceutical incentive, right, to diagnose people. And I think for many, many decades, the population was underdiagnosed. So like that incentive was aligned with the public good. But I think probably in the last 10 years, 15 years, we're getting to a place where there's an overdiagnosis, and now that incentive is an issue. And then on top of that, you have kind of the social incentives of, well, if I start making TikToks talking about my ADHD, then I'm going to get a following, and all these other ADHD people are going to follow me. Or if I talk about my anxiety disorder or my panic attacks, like all these other people are going to follow me. And then that becomes just a core part of who I am, which psychologically subtly a greater propensity for anxiety attacks and panic attacks, right? So like self-definition, I probably should have said this earlier, like self-definition has a huge impact on our mental well-being, right? Like there's so much research about this on both good and bad labels. So like, for instance, if you set out and start a new challenge, say it's a business challenge, or it could be anything, it could be running a mile or whatever, simply believing that you are capable of doing it, that you will be successful at it, like increases your odds of success substantially. It's the self-fulfilling prophecy aspect of life, right? Like if I tell myself that my new business venture is going to fail, it makes it more likely it's going to fail, because it's going to prime my brain to start looking for all the ways it could screw up. And then when it does screw up, I'm going to be like, see, I always knew it was going to screw up. So it's like, this is why you often see like founders and entrepreneurs are delusionally optimistic and overestimate themselves consistently, because it's actually very useful in a certain context. You see this with the athletes. You generally see this with like a wide range of highly successful people. The opposite of that is true as well. So if you believe, I can't do this because I'm an anxious person, I can't do this because it's going to be too stressful, I'm going to have panic attacks, you make it more likely that you're going to succumb to stress and panic attacks. That's not to say that it's the only thing causing your stress and panic. Like people do legitimately have anxiety disorders and panic disorders and all sorts of things. But the language you use with yourself can move the needle in terms of the likelihood of it holding you back or not. And so the other concerning part of therapy culture is that I think it is subtly reinforcing people to place limitations on themselves. To say, instead of saying, I have ADHD, and well, actually there's a bunch of contexts and situations that ADHD can actually be an asset. It's encouraging people to say, I have ADHD, so I'm just never going to be like a normal person. And there's all these things I can't do. And there's a bunch of things I'm probably going to fail at. And then it becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy.
If you're listening, like how do you integrate this into your life? Like what should you do instead of labeling yourself as negative things? How do you change and prime your brain so that you can label yourself a winner?
It's a great question. I also think there's potentially issues with labeling yourself a winner. So I'm of the Buddhist school of like, don't label yourself anything. You don't know who the fuck you are. Because when you don't have a label, then your potential is infinite, right? Like you could potentially become anything or anybody you want. So I recommend people shy away from labels as much as possible. And if you do adopt one, like be very conscious of why you're adopting it and like what the consequences of adopting that label are. I'll use kind of a superficial example, or it's not really superficial. It might sound superficial, but it was actually very profound for me. So I started, as we talked about earlier, I started blogging 2007. My first business was dating and relationship coaching. And that actually did pretty well. And I was like happy and like everything was going great. And I decided to write a book to kind of promote my online coaching business. That book eventually became Subtle Art. Subtle Art went on and sold a bazillion copies. And sure enough, next thing I know, all these big book deals are showing up. All these publishers want to work with me. All these like incredible opportunities are knocking on my door. I got to do a book with Will Smith, and it was super exciting. For the next 5 years, I was working just as hard as I had always worked, but it was feeling like, I guess I would say like, it started to feel like a grind. It started to feel like, obviously it wasn't a day job, but like the feeling that people get when you're just doing something for a paycheck, like it started to feel like that towards the end. And it really started to like grind me down, and I got pretty burnt out. And I took a sabbatical in 2022. And my big realization on the sabbatical was like, I thought I was an author. Like all of this shit, all the burnout and the stress and like long miserable hours. The problem was I thought I was an author. I'm an entrepreneur. This is like, I was creating a media and coaching business. I lost track of that because people showed up and started offering me like more money than I'd ever seen in my life to play as an author. And so I told myself, I'm an author. I do author things now. And I started living an author life. And it was like, I don't know, it was like walking around in clothes that are the wrong size. Like it's just very uncomfortable and eventually like starts to wear you down. And so on my sabbatical, I was like, I completely forgot. Like the way I got here is because I'm an entrepreneur. I should go back to being an entrepreneur and building online media and coaching businesses. And that's what I did. And I'm like happy as a pig in shit. So I haven't written a book in 5 years. So it's a simple shift in definition. And I guess my story, like the lesson from that is that it's very easy to unconsciously change how you see yourself based on the financial opportunities that show up. It's very tempting to do that. And I did that, and it like I ended up paying the consequences. So yeah, I'm back to being an entrepreneur, and I'm very happy.
Author.
Yes. Sometimes author.
Well, you are really good at, which is, I think, one of the reasons why so many people follow you online, but why I like talking to you. You're really self-reflective. Like almost every time we've talked, you've been like, I'm thinking about this. I tried this. I didn't like it. Like it didn't sit well with me. And so I thought about it and I changed it. And I think a lot of us in life, we just keep going. We're like, don't pay attention, keep going. And that's why burnout comes. There's no self-reflection. There's no review. But like, you're quite good, I think, at taking a step back and going, okay, let me think about this. Yeah. And even a reframe like I did there, you would have been very tempting for you to go like, oh, well, here's how you should label yourself.
Yes.
Like you accept somebody else's frame. That's actually, it's really hard to not do, especially in an interview.
Yeah.
To go instead, you said dumb question, this is what you should do instead, right? So for somebody listening, what is the way that you should self-reflect to even figure out, oh, I'm unhappy because I've labeled myself improperly?
Yeah. So a drum that I will bang on till my death. I keep pushing this message into kind of the productivity space, and I feel like nobody wants to hear it. But I think it's extremely important. So for people who care right now or in a phase of their life that they care very deeply about success, productivity, achievement, all those things, you have to view your emotions as another system to be managed. Most people just, like you said, push the emotion, they compartmentalize. They're like, we're not going to think about that now. I've got meetings to go to. And you can do that for a while. You can do that for a year, maybe a couple of years, but like at some point it's going to come back and it's really going to bite you in the ass. And I think that the thing that doesn't get talked about enough is that your emotions are another system to be managed. And as soon as you feel yourself getting off track emotionally of like not enjoying what you're doing, not being excited about the people you're working with, not getting along with your team, like these are all signals of like something's off. And sure, maybe it's not showing up on the balance sheet and it's not showing up in the P&L, but like it matters, because if you're miserable, like that's fucking terrible ROI long term. like you don't want to be stuck in a business. You don't want to build your own prison, essentially. So the first thing I would say for people who like, really care about that stuff is like to just acknowledge that this matters, that it does affect everything. And the second thing, I think once you realize that it is an important facet of everything that you're doing, it is another system to be managed, then you can start looking at it and thinking about it like you look at and think about other systems in your business or your career of like, okay, where's the bottleneck? Where's the poor ROI? Like where's the place or the person that I'm putting tons of energy into and I feel like I'm getting very little out? Like it's the exact same principles that you're applying in all these other areas of your life. You can look at your emotional life in the exact same way. In terms of tactically, I think journaling is like by far probably the easiest lift, like the highest leverage activity for people who haven't thought about this stuff a whole lot. Like just, get yourself like a empty notebook and start asking yourself a lot of these questions and really starting with like the basics. Like, what do I feel about this? How am I feeling in this moment? How am I feeling today? How am I feeling about what I'm working on? How am I feeling about the people around me? And then once you've identified those feelings, like ask yourself why. Why do I feel this way? Why does it feel so draining when I'm working on this part of my business or on this part of my career? What is it about it? And then really like explore that, give yourself the freedom to write pretty liberally until you find something.
That's really good. So no screaming manifestations in the mirror. And journal just kind of briefly about the things that we feel and ask why. That seems reasonable for like, internet people.
It's funny too. Like it's such a basic thing. I used to call this the why game. And it's, so you just take something you're struggling with and say like, how do you feel about that? Or like, why are you struggling with it? Take that reason. And then you take that reason and you say, okay, why is that reason a problem? And then you get another reason and you say, okay, why is that reason a problem? And it's just like layers of an onion, and you just keep going and going and going. And usually you'll get to a point where it gets circular. And like that circularity is usually like, okay, that's actually the real problem. That's the thing that you actually have to focus on, not this surface layer shit that, you've been thinking about.
That's so good. What, on the same vein, you were talking originally about, hey, like, I think people get this wrong and they're not listening to this, but I'll scream it from the rooftops. What else do you think that young people today just have so wrong? Yeah.
Well, we've definitely hit two of them. Like the failure piece that feels very particular to Gen Z, I think. It's just I'm alarmed by the amount of risk aversion I think the other thing that people, we talked about boundaries a little bit earlier. I do feel like there's maybe an overcorrection that's happening there. Again, it's great that people are becoming aware of boundaries and speaking up for themselves and being willing to say no. But I think, again, coming back, like there's so much shitty advice on social media that is just like, if they don't respect you, then they can get the fuck out of your life. And it's like, well, no, actually, some people you don't want to do that with, right? Like some people you maybe want to stick it out and try to work with them or put some time into it. I do. There's some alarming. We did a podcast last year on kind of some alarming statistics on people cutting family members out of their lives.
What's happening?
I forget the exact numbers because it's been a while, but it was an episode we did like probably like early 25. And it's shocking. It's way more people than you think. It's something like 25% of Gen Z is like willingly chosen not to speak to at least one parent. A lot of siblings being cut off, a lot of stuff. And again, I think it's like well-intentioned therapy culture type stuff of like, well, my mom is toxic or my brother never respects my boundaries or whatever. And I get where it's coming from, but I also think that I feel like cutting family members out of your life is a move of last resort. Like there's a lot of intermediary steps you can go. It
doesn't need to be step one.
You can manage exposure to people. You can manage set boundaries around which topics you'll talk with, how long you'll spend with them, what conversations you'll indulge, which ones you won't. There's just a lot of managing that you can do in between.
No, it's so true. I mean, I always go back to the quote. It's like an African proverb about you can either pave the world in leather or you can wear leather shoes. And I think I totally agree with you. Sometimes that person that's problematic is there to teach you something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just avoid everybody that you don't like, or everybody that is even toxic, or everybody that is pushing boundaries, then that means you don't get better at holding them.
Yes.
You don't get better at keeping things out of your perimeter that are toxic because you're so hard to push through.
Yeah.
If you don't allow these people in to teach you lessons in some way, you never get better.
Yeah.
Because you expect the whole world to be paved as opposed to wearing the shoes. And so I think, it's cool because what you're building right now that I want to talk about is a pushback to a thing that scares the hell out of me.
Okay.
Which is, I have like multiple girlfriends who have turned ChatGPT and named it into their therapist.
Okay.
And the problem, as my friend Arthur Book said better than I did, and I'm not going to say it as eloquent, is that he says the problem with ChatGPT is it is a malignant narcissist in that it is just trained to read back to you the things that it thinks that you want to hear.
Yes.
And to agree with you by and large.
Mm-hmm.
And it has no emotion.
Yes.
It is psychopathic in its tendencies. And so what concerns me with some of my friends is these are like amazing people who will tell me that they'll have an argument with a man that they're dating and then go feed their side into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will confirm every single thing that they're doing.
Of course.
And I love you, friends, but some of you guys are fucking psychos too. Like, we can get crazy in relationships, me included.
Of course.
And I'm wrong all the time. And so if I only feed my side in and then ChatGPT is always telling me I'm right, that seems bad.
Yes.
And I don't know, you're the expert in this. Like, what is happening? Is that bad? Should people be using ChatGPT as a therapist? What is your thought? And then I want to talk to you about your counterpoint to it.
Deeply concerned as well. I started noticing in my life, same thing. A bunch of friends, family members started using ChatGPT as a therapist. This is maybe a year and a half ago, I went and started experimenting with it, kind of running some life problems through it, seeing how it responded. And I'll say this, it's very uneven. Like there's some things that it's much better at than say your average therapist. And then some things it's much worse at. So the thing you pointed out is what it's much worse at. It just validates. It doesn't think critically. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't, it wants you to feel happy. It kisses your ass way too much. The thing that it's good at is it is in its data set is the entire wealth of knowledge, the entire field of psychology, essentially. every research paper is in there. Every finding is in there. Every branch of the topic is in there. I think there's over 3,000 hours worth of therapy transcripts like in the foundational model. So if you get it away from, if you approach it with any problem that's not about validating your feelings, like if you actually ask it for some sort of tangible feedback or advice on a more specific problem, it will actually be extremely well informed on the research in that area, and it will generally give you some good direction and good advice. The problem is that your average layperson has no idea what the difference between those two things is. And so, yeah, that becomes very problematic for sure.
Yeah. And I was reading the other day that like 60% of LLMs are off of Reddit, which is, I think, where dreams go to die. So that like those people being my therapist is my personal nightmare. That would be horrific.
Yes.
But like, I guess my point here is you're building something that's a counterpoint to this.
Yes.
Which is, don't just go to, like, if you actually want to change your life or fix your life, you don't just want to be told you're right. And that's like, my husband and I always say that to each other. We say, do you want to win or do you want to be right?
Right.
And often winning doesn't mean me personally winning. It might mean our relationship winning.
Yes.
You know, do I want our relationship to be good or do I want to say, you are wrong, I am right, tell it back to me.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And if that's what you want, then I guess go to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But if not, there's not a lot of other places to go to where somebody will kind of give you a little tough love.
Yeah.
And so you came up with something that I think is really clever.
Yeah. So I felt very strongly. So I felt this tension. I'm like, it's definitely not meant for this purpose, but the potential is there. Like it is trained on so much wealth of psychological knowledge and data. And coincidentally, it was funny. I was actually at a poker game. I sat next to a guy and started talking to him, and his name was Raj, and he founded a AI business. Have you ever checked in a hotel and you get like a text message and it's like an AI concierge? You can say like, oh, I want towels or whatever. So he created that.
He's probably doing okay.
Yeah. He had like a very big exit and took a year off and had just finished his sabbatical, like when he went to that poker game. So I started talking to him. He's like, yeah, I'm just wrapping up a sabbatical. I'm trying to figure out what's next. I was like, oh, cool. Like, what are you thinking about? And he said, well, I really want to do something in AI mental health. And I was like, no shit. Been thinking about this too. And turns out he had identified the exact same problem. He's like, there's so much potential here, but there's no LLM that has been optimized for it. There's nothing that's been trained for it. There's nothing that's like been specifically created for this purpose. So he and I became co-founders, and we've been working together since February. And as of this week, we were in full V1 launch of our app called Purpose. And the goal of it is to essentially be that counterpoint to ChatGPT. Instead of just trying to make you feel better all the time, the goal is to actually make you better, right? Tell you the hard things that you need to hear, point out your blind spots to you, challenge you on your bullshit, say like, are you really sure about that? Or like, maybe like your shit stinks too. And it's been great. Like it's because here's the funny thing that we've actually noticed with a lot of our early users as well, is that like people are way more honest with an AI than they are with a therapist. Like if I don't know about you, but like my experience in therapy, like it often takes like 4, 5, 6 sessions just to get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'll actually say this thing to her, right?
Of course. And you want them to like you more than your partner. I mean, that's like the natural inclination. You're like, he's the, the thing is.
It's all about your perspective.
Right, 100%.
But it's, when it's an AI, it's just like, well, fuck it, whatever. This is what I'm thinking. This is who I'm kind of screwed up, but like, here it is, like it never judges you. It's like, you never have to worry about it. It's going to like hold something against you, or it's like secretly thinking something about you. So generally speaking, we see people are much more forthcoming with it. And you actually get to that clarity extremely quickly. Like sometimes in a matter of minutes. It's like pretty crazy.
Is there like a Mark Manson button, or Mark Manson? Is there a button where we can get your voice to talk back to us?
Not yet. Maybe. But that might be coming.
Or is it really nice still?
It is nice.
Does it cuss?
No.
I have a lot of user feedback. I feel like this is a miss. I wanted it to be able to talk shit to me from the author of The Subtle Art of Giving a Fuck back.
We actually talked about this.
Okay.
And one of the things I told my co-founders, I was like, look, like I'm under no illusions that I'm the right person for everybody. Right. So I actually think if we put my personality on it, we would be limiting it. It would help fewer people. So it is not limited to me, but maybe we will get a Mark Manson button. Just a little button.
Yeah,
just be like, hey, fuck face.
Yeah, exactly.
Pull your head out.
Also, talk about viral feedback loops.
Yes.
Can you imagine those screenshots?
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah. Come
on.
All right. Let me on the cap table. I've got feedback. But I really like the idea, and I really commend my husband's the smarty on AI. It's not me. Mm-hmm. But I go just this weekend. I was with last weekend, whenever ASAL was. And I was with all these guys who, like the guy who started Apptronic, the robot company, and well, I won't say anyway, like just a bunch of really big names in robotics and AI. And I had the funniest conversation. It wasn't from the CEO of Apptronic, but and the conversation kind of went like this. I was like, don't you think we should worry like a little bit about what we're building with AI? Because seems like happiness gone down, sex gone down, marriage gone down. Like social media has, like, by and large, us gluing our faces to the phones, by and large, incredible for productivity and like GDP growth. Yeah. Not so great for just being happy, like as humans, it seems like, or even procreating. Like the data is kind of hard to refute, I think, on that. So if that's true, I'm like, maybe, if they like neurochip ads into our brains, it would be not great. And so anyway, that seemed like reasonable to me. And as I was talking to this guy, who's a really nice guy that I like, he was like, well, I'm a tech optimist. Yeah. And I thought, yeah, like I'm an optimist too, but you could be cautiously optimistic, which also seems rational. And he's like, no, we'll just like figure it out. I go, well, we haven't exactly figured it out. So shouldn't we have these conversations and say, what are we building? Is this really a good idea? And how could we try to take all the knowledge we have of human psychology for millennia and realize that if this is an extension of human psychology, it's probably good to put some guardrails on it if at all humanly possible.
For sure.
So like, I commend that you're doing it, because his response was hysterical. It was like maximum mansplain. He goes, listen, come on Monday, I'll explain AI to you. I was like, get the fuck out. I was like, that's what I was like. I was like, I want to have my big dick energy. I'm like, I want to open my legs wider than you,
buddy. Yeah.
But I know, isn't that funny? I mean, and I'm not pretending I know very much about AI, but we've invested in a slew of companies, and even the best founders are concerned.
Oh, we spend like a ridiculous amount of time. The two big things we spend most of our development time on is privacy and guardrails, because it is such early days, and we are still learning so much about what is an appropriate use of this technology and what's not. And yeah, it's hard. There's some scary shit. So like we're constantly testing it. Like it's very, very high on our priority list. The one thing I will say to what you just said is, and this actually like relieved me. It's going to sound a little bit funny when I explain. When I started this company, I was very like, basically Raj is the engineer, the builder, built the team, built all the development team and everything. And then I was kind of the product guy. So I had a rough idea of like how this thing should talk, what it should sound like, what good tough love advice is, and what is just kissing your ass. And so I spent a lot of time working with the LLM directly, like on the eval system, the training data, all the system prompts, like trying to squeeze out of it, like what should come out of it. And I will say, after working very, very closely directly with an LLM for over a year now, my estimation of what they're capable of has dropped considerably. Like they're like brilliant idiots. Like they will do multivariate calculus while doing a backflip in like spinning 2 plates on their fingers, but then, like their shoes will be on wrong. Like it's, there's like so many situations like that, there've been so many times where I've just been trying to get it to do like such a basic thing, and it'll take an entire afternoon. And I'm like, okay, there's no way this thing's taking over the world. Like it just like the fact that it can't even give me this like one text response when I specifically asked for it, it's like, okay, we're probably going to be okay for a while. So I do think there's a little bit of moral panic going on around it. I don't think they're quite as capable as most. I mean, I don't know how much you guys have been using AI in your business, but it's like a year ago, I was like so on the train of like, everybody on my team, you got to get good at AI right now. This is going to be part of every workflow. And 6 months later, we're like, oh, half of it is just trash. And
I do think garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah. And it's actually very, very hard you have to be extremely skilled to get it to do what you want extremely well. And oftentimes the amount of effort it takes to get it to do something you want extremely well, you might as well just do it yourself. So
yeah, I'm still there sometimes too.
Yeah.
But we hired a whole AI specialist team. So it's actually so fun to work with them because they're also smarter than me at prompting. And because with AI too, you have to know, to go to your part about beautiful idiots or brilliant idiots, there is the plate spinner that is the best plate spinner of all time.
Yes.
But that you have to match with the back flipper sometimes. And you're like, oh, okay, the two of you together do some magic, but independently, Jesus.
Yeah.
There's like one other place I want to go with you today. Totally unrelated to AI, hard pivot, but you did start in dating, and I've always like respected the conversations we've had about you and your wife.
Yeah.
And how you choose partners. So I want to read you a couple quotes and get your feedback. You said, choosing a romantic partner isn't just about romance. You're also choosing a confidant, counselor, career advisor, therapist, investor, teacher, travel buddy, roommate, and business partner. Choose wisely. And the question I think is, does that still hold true for you? That was from quite a few years ago. And how exactly does one find this type of partner?
It's funny because when I posted that, I got a bunch of blowback of people like, oh, you shouldn't hold people to such high expectations. And I think like what gets missed is that it's not that you should go looking for all those things. It's when you choose to marry somebody, that's what you're getting. Whether you want it or not, that person, your spouse becomes all of those things for you. So you have to vet them beyond just how's the romance or how spicy is the sex. Like you have to think through like a lot of different personality traits. And I think it's absolutely true. I personally think marrying well is like the single highest leverage decision of your entire life. And also not marrying well is also a very high leverage decision. Like it is just the force multiplier on all of your outcomes across life. And it's not just your career outcomes, it's your happiness outcomes, it's your health outcomes, it's all sorts of things, your social life. A good spouse makes everything better, and a bad spouse will make everything worse.
It's so true. I totally agree. And I get shit about it on the internet too. And you know what else is scary? I'm always scared to give advice because I'm like, I don't know, check back in 40 years. See how we're doing. Like this is like, I'm kind of new at this. It's only been 10 years, you know?
Yeah.
Like let's chill, but we're doing good right now.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for a young person that is looking for what you have, which is somebody that is all of those things?
I think the biggest thing to look for is character. Again, yes, you want the romance, you want the sparks to fly, you want to be swept off your feet and all, like we all want that. It's great. Don't get me wrong. But you have to look a level deeper. You have to look at their character, their integrity. How good of a decision maker are they? Are they dependable? Are they trustworthy? Do they share your values? How's their relationship with their family? Like all these things matter. And obviously nobody's perfect. Like nobody's going to check every single box, but ideally you want to find somebody who checks most of them, and the ones they don't check, like you can work with it, you know?
Totally. Do you have like a couple questions you ask? Like I know we're both like we're a little baked now.
Yeah.
But but
We're boomers.
basically, fuck, shut up, Mark. But like, if you were given young you advice, the team actually asked me this the other day. I was like, I was having an existential crisis trying to answer it. But like, what if I only had 3 or 5 questions to sort of start sussing out, is this potentially my person or not? What are those?
Well, I will tell you, my favorite first date question that I recommend everybody ask is, ask the person you're on a date with, what did you learn from your last relationship? And the red flag is if the person starts going off about how horrible their ex was and how shitty they were, and oh my God, I can't believe I dated them for so long. Like that person, run far away. Get as far away as you can. What you're looking for is somebody who says, it was a complicated relationship. It was good for a while. Then things went bad. Here's why they went bad. Here was my part in it. This was their part in it. Somebody who has perspective and an understanding of like what went wrong, and who also has clearly like done some work since then to make sure that it doesn't go wrong again. I also love the question too, because if you ask it and the person kind of freaks out and gets really uncomfortable, that's also a signal, right? It's a signal that this is not a person who is comfortable opening up relatively quickly, who like doesn't want to go there.
You know what's crazy is that's the same thing for interviewing too. I always say, if like the person you are going to hire, if you ask them, like, tell me what happened in your last job. Like, why did you leave? Why did you choose to move on? If they start going negative, the company was terrible, the boss was awful, everything was ever.
Yeah.
I have never once hired one of those people and had it work out.
Yeah.
Not once.
Yeah.
Every single time I wished I didn't hire them.
Yeah.
Because I think the way that you treat the last person, the highest indication will be that you will be treated the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's such a good one. Okay, last one for you. You've also tweeted, the person you marry is the person you fight with. The house you buy is the house you repair. The dream job you take is the job you stress over. Everything comes with an inherent sacrifice. Whatever makes us feel good will also inevitably make us feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
You can't escape the bullshit. you can't escape it. It's no matter where you go, there's going to be some bullshit. So you just need to make sure that it's the bullshit you like having. It's the problems you are grateful that you have in your life. Again, I think people, they think about the benefits and the successes that they want. That's actually a very easy and uninteresting question. Everybody generally wants money. Everybody wants a great partner. Everybody wants to be liked and popular and, all these things. The question is like, what pain do you want? Like, what are you willing to give up? What struggles are you actually kind of okay having? Like, what challenges do you seem to do better with than most people? Like, that's actually where you get into who somebody is and like what makes you unique as an individual and what is ultimately going to serve you best as you move through life.
That's so good. I always say with goals, like, don't tell me what you want, tell me what you're willing to sacrifice to get them. But I've never actually asked. I've like proselytized on the internet about that, but I don't ever think I've actually asked somebody. Like, have you asked your wife or your friends or people you meet with those questions?
Like, what are you willing to give up?
Yeah. Like, what is the pain that you want? Like, what would be the way that you would even ask those questions to somebody? Because it's kind of hot. I want to I need to go around. And, you can take that question multiple ways, but like, I like it.
Yeah. It's when I give talks, I say like everybody is secretly a masochist about something. The question is just like, what do you want to spank you and call you daddy? By the way, this goes over great at like corporate conferences.
Do you say that?
You can imagine I get invited back all the time.
Google's like, pull him.
You and I probably have the most polar opposite corporate speaking experiences.
No, I tell all their employees to leave. And then you tell them who wants to spank them.
Yeah,
so you know what? I'll start bringing you along. Let's do a road show.
Yeah, we'd just be the anti-corporate speakers.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to frame it in those terms. It's a hard question. Like I think nobody asks themselves. Nobody's asked it very often. It's like, what do you actually kind of secretly like? Like, what problem do you secretly like having? It's like a very interesting question that most of us don't think about. And but yeah, I think the answer is extremely important.
What do you like?
The problem I secretly enjoy having, I mean, I'm a workaholic. Like I like the grind. I like climbing the ladder. Like, it's just fun. It's like I told my dad once, when I came back and I started scaling content and doing video and stuff online and launching a podcast and everything, my dad kind of pulled me aside and he's like, why are you doing this? He's like, financially, you're pretty set. And I told him, I was like, Dad, it's like I found the best video game and there's always another level. Like, you never beat it. And he got it. He was like, okay, that's cool. That's a good reason to do it.
Oh, that's such a good place to end. Mark, this was incredible. Thank you so much for being on the
Thanks
podcast.
for having me.
Podcast, and I'm Codie Sanchez. Welcome back. Today we're talking to you builders about how to make more money. I call this the sell things to rich people, they pay more. And I know that's true and it's cute, but is it so easy? Having sold clients who are both not so rich and rich, there is a truth to this meme, which I want to read to you. You can see it here. It says, $500 client. I just feel as though with this investment I'm about to make in you, that you should understand how our lives are about to change. And I need results and you need to bring them, and I'm entrusting you with our livelihood and lives. $50,000 client. Money sent, thanks. Anybody who's been in business kind of chuckles at this, except it's true. Now, here's why I understand the $500 client. You have to remember that they need that $500 to do something for them. They actually have a visceral need. That might be what's called last dollar for them. They need the return on that dollar to be so significant that they hold you to a level that is actually irrational. And so you don't want to just sell things to rich people because you're greedy. You want to sell things to rich people maybe even because you're not the best to begin with. In order to sell things to people who don't have a lot of money, you have to sell a huge amount of volume to be able to live. Volume is hard to get when you're not a very good operator. So rich people want you to sell them something. Remember that and use it to your advantage. There are two worlds of entrepreneurships. One world, scraps, selling cheap products to price-sensitive customers who churn the moment they find a discount. In the second world, sell fewer, better things for more money. That volume game can work. It's built some of the biggest business empires out there, Walmart, Amazon, McDonald's. Three small issues, though. The game is brutally competitive. It requires you to be airtight in your operations and infrastructure, and even the best eventually move into higher margin products. So a different path. Sell expensive things to people who can afford them. The question you need to ask yourself is, when was the last time you raised your prices? Our guess, well, 9 out of 10 small businesses undercharge. Why? Scary not to. If you start to realize wealthy customers want to be sold, your entire business can change. The question, though, is, what do rich people actually buy? There are 5 reasons rich people buy. Only 5. Every single reason falls into this hierarchy that I call the rich desire pyramid and teach to all of our portfolio companies. Number 1, status. Status means make me look important. It's the top of the pyramid. How do you sell it? You position your business as the best, not the cheapest. When they ask, well, can I get a discount? You say, well, you could, but you might regret buying from that guy. Why don't you just pay a pro now as opposed to regret an amateur later? You showcase expertise, exclusivity, and premium service. What are companies that do this really well? Because I always like to imitate, then I iterate, then I innovate. So you might want to imitate some of the marketing of Hermes. Limited run purses that are mostly handmade, although I hear there's some confusion about that by China right now, but let's stick with the plot, which is one person makes each item from start to finish. It's special and it's a signal. When you carry a Birkin bag, you are saying something. No one who buys a Birkin bag is trying to ask for discounts. This is a customer that actually wants to pay more for the alligator extra ridiculous thing on top. Except, is it ridiculous if they want to pay for it? In fact, I think you have to flip your brain about that. Number 2 in the pyramid is convenience. That means make my life easier. So if you think about rich people, if they have an infinite amount of money, they can buy almost anything, right? Except more time. So if you can do something that allows them to buy back their time, they will pay you for it, potentially up to a complete no cap at the top, which I really like. So how do you sell something like this? Well, you eliminate friction. That would be things like white glove service, subscriptions, concierge treatment, private jets, fast and expensive. For instance, if you go to all major airlines, but we'll use Delta as an example, Delta has really 2 classes of tickets, right? They have main cabin and they have first class. So you might think that the really special people go to first class. Well, actually, the really special people go to first class and then they get Delta Concierge, which is somewhere between $500 and $1,000 for somebody to get them from the front of the airport, drive them around through the back, let them load up first and privately, and it's for no different experience. No different product is sold there as far as the seat. It is literally just that it increases convenience for them. So that is what you need to think about in your business. If right now you have a landscaping service, why wouldn't you add a white glove offering to the top? What might white glove mean? It might mean, hey, one of our portfolio companies, we said, What about for new homeowners in really expensive suburban neighborhoods? What if you as their landscaping service said, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, I know you're new here. We're happy to give you a landscaping quote and to do your landscaping for you. Also, we have a group of 5 other of the top tier service providers in your area. So if you need somebody for cleaning, I can make a recommendation. If you need somebody for window washing, roofing, interior design, we have a Rolodex, and I can literally do a white glove introduction for you to all of those people. And what do you do on that? You actually take an affiliate cut on everybody. So this is not as scalable, but remember, because you have big margins and because you create convenience, you can have a very sexy business doing white glove service of existing services. By the way, if you're building a business right now and you're stuck or you want to break out to the next level, maybe you're not where you want to be today. Believe me, I've been there many, many times. I want you to know I got you. We help thousands of business owners a year figure out how to scale to the next level. One of my favorite mentors said, every level you have, there's just a higher level and a higher devil. And so if you've been in business for a while and you're doing 6, 7, or 8 figures, there's probably one thing standing in the way of your next level. That's why we host growth and scale workshops 4 times a year throughout the year in Austin, in Miami, in San Diego, and you may be a fit to come to one of them. If it sounds interesting to you to get help on how to scale your business to the next level, you can reach out to my team at the link in the show notes. We believe in you builders, but we also believe that it's a lonely road and you can't do it by yourself. Number 3, exclusivity. Let me in, keep others out. That's what they're saying. This is why there are private members clubs. This is why there are golf courses, because rich people want to feel special, good, bad, or otherwise, like them or don't like them. This is something that people want when they have a lot of money to buy. So how do you sell it? Restrict access, invite-only services, VIP tiers. This creates demand. Think about it like, I don't know, have you guys ever heard of Tiger 21? Tiger 21 is a fascinating community. You have to have $20 million in net worth to be in a community that you pay $30,000 for a year, and they validate your income. They will not let you in unless they can validate your income and also your net worth. How fascinating is that? And then you're in a room a couple times a year with only other people that are worth $20 million or above. They don't want any other people in it, so they charge you a premium for only allowing access to other people just like them. We can hate this and think it's elitist, or we can use it and get rich. It's really up to you. Number 4, privacy. Give me some space. So often, once you have a lot of money, other things come with that. For instance, now that I'm public on the internet, there's lots of people that get doxxed, right? So they want to make sure that they're protected. There are entire services for scrubbing all of your information off of the internet. There are services that scrub your businesses off the internet. Don't tell people about them. Supposedly there's quite a few celebrities who scrub their children's photos everywhere off the internet. And so as you get more famous and as you get more money, people want things from you. If you're famous, maybe they want your picture, they want access to you, whatever. If you have more money, they want some of it. And so if you can create this privacy buffer space, then you can make a lot of money. So how do you sell it? Well, you offer high trust, high security, high privacy services. A way to do this across the board might be like, I have a cleaning company and I only clean really high-end customers' houses. So all of my cleaning ladies sign NDA policies. They make sure that they understand owner preferences. You can tell us how you want to be communicated with by our cleaners. So you can do this because you allow absolute discretion, which builds loyalty. This is really, really critical in my mind for service businesses and so underutilized. And maybe if you don't have a lot of money right now, this one doesn't make sense to you, but I'm going to tell you how to make any of these make sense to you so you can apply it to your business and your life right after this. 5, scarcity. Make it hard to get. So let's think about this for a second. Why do rich people want something to be hard for other people to get? Well, they want to feel special, right? So at a certain point, if you have all the money in the world, it's not just about other people thinking highly of you. It's about you being able to tell a story about a thing you were able to do or get or see that somebody else couldn't get. It's almost like a rich person pioneer, right? They're like, I want to be the first one to plant my flag on a foreign land. So how do you sell this? You limit availability. You do this on purpose. And let me tell you how rare this is for entrepreneurs to do. What do entrepreneurs want to do? Sell more things to more people again and again and again because they want to make more money. It actually doesn't make sense in your head commonsensically to think, well, maybe I should sell less things at a higher price. But that is what this is. And how you do this is waiting lists, premium tiers, applications all drive demand. Think about waiting for the brand new shoe drops, or we talked about Birkin bags before. In fact, you want to actually have things that are a real commodity, which means they're limited in quantity. I met a guy, I was at this event, and this was an event for a bunch of rich people. And funny thing about rich people is they have weird hobbies. And so this guy in particular had just exited his second or third SaaS company. And I'm sitting down with him and I'm like, what are you working on right now? Lord, do I wish I hadn't asked that question, because I got a soliloquy on crystal marketplaces. He had just started a crystal marketplace. Now this isn't your ordinary woo-woo Austin crystal. He was showing me his crystal collection, which was like, I don't know, $1 million crystals. And I felt like that meme where that like guy is whispering into the girl's ear and she's just dying on the inside as she's listening to him. And that was me with crystals this day. And so he went on and on about how he's bought this $1 million crystal and it couldn't be anywhere else. And this is so special. And I feel like he might've missed the plot about what women care about today because he appeared to be single. But why would he care about that? Because there's only one crystal just like that in the world. There's only one diamond just like that in the world. They're buying into a feeling, a position, a lifestyle. They aren't price sensitive, they're value sensitive. And once you understand this philosophy, you'll be able to sell to rich people. If you want to sell to wealthy customers, you got to ask yourself the rule of 2. Does your offer hit at least 2 of these categories? If you're selling convenience, add exclusivity. If you're selling status, add scarcity. If you're selling privacy, add convenience. Rich people want to spend money, give them a reason to. Here's the difference between the 2. Selling cheap means you're going to have price sensitive, high churn. You're going to have harder to scale volume game. You're going to have competitors everywhere. Selling rich means they'll pay a premium for the right product, no price shopping if they trust you, and will keep spending if you deliver. The difference between the 2 is really one singular idea. Do you understand rich people? And if right now you're like, oh, this sounds great, Cody, but I've never even met a person who could buy a Birkin bag or wouldn't think a $30,000, $50,000, or a $200,000 purse is criminal, then I need you to do something. You see, what changes is when we are around other people who have money, it opens up our eyes to what is possible. And so what I'd like you to do is I would like you to go to somewhere that rich people are. Right? If you're in LA, go to Beverly Hills. I just want you to walk around. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to do anything. Go to a luxury shopping mall. See how they engage with their customers there. Try to engage with the people who are there and see how they treat you versus other customers. What can you do to change the way that they treat you? If you dress a certain way, will they treat you differently? Go and sit in the lobby of the most expensive hotel you can find. Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons. Dress how you think is appropriate. You can bring your own food and drink if you want to, be sneaky about that. But I want you to watch the people coming in and out of the lobby. How do they engage? If you get a chance, sit and chat with them. One of my friends, Jesse Eitzler, when he had no money before he married Sarah Blakely and they became billionaires and he started NetJets and a bunch of big companies, he used to go to the Beverly Hills Hotel in California. And he had no money then, but he would spend the little money that he had buying the cheapest item on the lunch menu in order to sit at lunch in Hollywood and meet as many people as he could. And every single day he would have a goal of engaging with 1 or 2 people there. And then he would see, how do these people engage in life? How do they think about things? How do they build? How do they get opportunities? And he credits those conversations with some of his path to becoming a billionaire. So get around rich people, sell to rich people, you will make more money. See you next week. I believe you are capable of building big, beautiful companies.
Hey, I have something special for you for being such a loyal listener, because you're here with me all the time. I get asked by a bunch of you, how do I tell if I should buy a business or not? Should you buy a business or not? What price should you buy a business at? How do you structure your deal? I got you, fam. So I'm going to gift you our deal calculator. Every time I look at a deal, I grab the numbers, plug it in here, and see how much money I could make or lose if I did a good or bad deal. So this is my gift to you. And if you're serious about buying a business, we want to help you. You can talk to my team about if you're a fit for our business buying community or curriculum. No matter what, here's your free gift. And if you need a hand to hold, I got you too. Hey crew, this is so cool. The podcast is growing like crazy, and it's only actually because of one thing, you. I don't know if you know this, but the only way the Big Deal Pod grows is when you share it with somebody else. We don't do ads, we don't do pay for play, we don't go on other people's podcasts and talk about it. So if you think there was something helpful here, if we made you money, we made you think about your business or life differently, the most beautiful thing you can do for me is share it. And the most beautiful thing you can do for someone that you care about is to share it with them, help them grow alongside you. So please share the pod. That's how we grow. And also tag me on anything you share. I love resharing other builders across Instagram, Twitter, and all other platforms. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're super important to me.